Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's Ron. It's Monday evening. We'll start and see if we have questions. Uh, I, we probably have a lot to talk about, especially with some turn of events yesterday with the election. So, if you don't mind, I would like to start with a question that someone sent me uh, before we go in that direction, because that may tie us up the rest of the evening. Uh, Someone sent me a question about the scripture that says God is a jealous God. What does it mean to be jealous? So if you guys don't mind, we'll start off with that one and see where we go from there. What does it mean to be jealous?
Um, that's something that I have looked at before because I had a problem with reconciling with God being jealous. And the reason I have had an issue with it is because jealousy is filled with resentment based on rivalry or somebody's success or feeling like somebody has an advantage over you.
Mhm.
And God has no reason to be envious of us. Now, there are people who are envious of each other. And usually, what happens is, and I'll get to it in scripture in a moment because, like I said, that perplexed me. But just thinking about it from a perspective of how we interact with people who are jealous, jealous people don't realize they're jealous most of the time. You can see jealousy in someone else before they see it in themselves. And if you mention to them that they are expressing the emotion of jealousy, they're the first ones to deny it and really get angry with you. And the anger is because they deep down inside know that they are. And the refrain usually is, "Why? What you got for me to be jealous of? I ain't jealous of nobody." If you go at it like that, yes, you are. Yes, you are. The only thing that usually makes people upset enough to respond like that is when you tell them the truth about them and their
Agree.
emotions. So, did you have something to say? Oh, so if you are if you are expressing jealousy, it's because you find a shortcoming in you. You feel like you are actually lacking something, and you feel like whoever you are jealous of has what you are lacking or has more than what you desire for yourself. And and when we look at it from day to day, what do we see? We see people being jealous of someone because they have a car or a house or dress well or because and this is the kicker, people are jealous of folk because what they perceive them to be. That a perception of someone having something that you wish you had, and you're jealous of them based on a perception. Now, if you spend time engaged in jealous emotion, then how much time do you have left to spend with you? Because, would you mute your phone, please? Because if you are jealous, and the person that you are jealous of if it's a person, because some things people are jealous about, but if it's a person that you're jealous of, they are living rent free in your head and your heart because you're carrying anger. You are carrying a type of anger that is unwarranted. And envy breeds anger. And you respond to people subconsciously as well as consciously in a very, very, very nasty way. And my experience has been that call them out. Why are you jealous? Why do you respond to me the way that you do? Is it something that I have that you want, or something that I have that you dislike? Please let me know. That kind of thing. Now, you've heard what I said, right? Then let me ask you this. Is anything I have said about jealousy, is it wrong? Does it miss the mark? And this is not rhetorical. I do want to hear someone acknowledge it or challenge it by virtue of saying that's not jealousy. Don't everybody speak at once.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Reb, my belief on jealousy is, if I'm jealous of someone, I really can't explain why I'm jealous of them. Now, if I'm envious of someone, I can explain why I'm envious of
Jealousy,
someone.
George. Jealousy and envy are the same thing.
No, sir, Reverend Richard.
Yes, they are.
And it's all right.
Look in your dictionary.
Well,
go ahead.
Reb, my belief of that is when someone is envious of something, they have some degree of intimacy. They know one another. Jealousy,
of course.
You don't have to know a person to be jealous of them. And that's the only difference of jealousy and envy. They're two different things.
What?
Someone who's envious of you or just envious, they're close in your circle. That means it can be sibling rivalry. That means it can be in-law rivalry, a co-worker, sorority brother, a fraternity brother, sorority sister. And Reb, just because I don't see it your way, I'm not saying that I'm against you. That's just how I look at the difference between jealousy and envy. Thank you.
Okay. There are people who are envious of people they never met. There are people who look at TV and see people on TV who may be successful or did something they wish they had done or are independent, and they get envious of them. And that's no different than being jealous of them. But we can agree to disagree. I can appreciate that. So anyway, the things that I said, all the things that George said, are we on the right about jealousy? Do you see anything wrong with that or different than that? Come on.
No, I don't. I guess back to your original statement, your first part, looking at it from, because I went to Exodus 34 because I was trying to find the first place it mentions it. And if you look at it from that perspective, it almost appears that God is apart from us, the way that,
Yes.
And that's the part that's kind of puzzling to me, trying to understand that. So
that's the next point I'm going to make. All the things I said, why is it that an attribute of that nature is attributed to the one who created us and everything that is. That doesn't make sense to me. And if it does to you, please explain it to me, any one of you. I create everything that is, and I'm jealous. Jealousy is that thing that plagues humans. And jealousy is not a positive thing at all because of the anger and the envy that it breeds. The sense of rivalry that only you know, and the person who you are jealous of doesn't even have a clue of what's going on in your head. So I find that should never have been attributed to God, because there is absolutely positively no reason for God to be jealous of anybody or anything. So how do you propose to deal with it? I said, confront it straight up. Because the person who's jealous, 99 times out of 10, is not going to admit that they're jealous. And we'll go off on you if you say they're jealous. And when they go off on you, then you know that they know they're jealous. The truth has hit in a painful way. Does that make sense, guys? Huh? You're breaking up.
About that. Well, this is one.
Can't understand you.
Okay, what about now?
No, I can hear. You have it sounds like a mechanical voice. I understand you. Huh?
Can you?
Yeah, that in the beginning it was better, but you went off again.
Okay.
See, can you find a better place?
Can you hear me now?
I hear you there.
Can you hear me now?
You keep going in and out, Evelyn.
It's the same house. Can you hear me now?
Let's try it. Now I hear nothing.
I have to move all through this room. Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
go. Okay, there you go.
Is Kim not? I mean, is
You must not be supposed to ask, because every time you start, we cannot understand you.
Pastor, I had to, my phone sounded the same way. I had to hang up and call back in.
Okay. You hear that, Evelyn? I'll hang up and try to call back in.
Okay, all right.
All right. In the meantime, are there any other comments or questions about that? And does it make sense to you guys? And I'm not just talking about Ron.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
What?
I
I would
I
say,
agree.
well,
thank you.
my first thought was maybe you have to check the translation or something. Or what's the Aramaic meaning, or
The
because
the
I
Hebrew,
agree with you that it's antithetical to what we know the Creator to be.
right,
So
angry.
maybe there was a different meaning of it at one time other than how we use it right now?
I was looking at the Bible that's on my phone, and when Ron said Exodus 34, and one of the things it said was angry. It said jealous or angry.
Angry. Yeah, that's what got me angry. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I can see anger depending on why, but I cannot see jealousy. Know that the Lord your God is a jealous God. That doesn't make sense to me, because it is indeed antithetical to our Creator and the attributes of the Creator.
This is Ramel. I have a question.
Mhm.
I looked up both jealousy and envy. And it says jealousy is a negative, usually thought more negative. It involves resentment towards the other person. However, kind of staying with what Audrey said about a different meaning, envy used to mean, before it was wrapped up into jealousy's definition, it's also a negative feeling, like a mix of admiration and discontent. So could it be that it's really saying God was discontent with our behavior, our physical behavior?
So God admired us, but was discontent with our behavior.
Yes. In the sense of us not being aware of who the Creator is.
With discontentment, I can see that because of some of the things that we neglect to do or do. I can see that, but I cannot see the idea of jealousy. Jealousy is solely a human attribute.
I agree with that. I can see that.
If you start in this 11th verse of Exodus 34, he starts telling them things not to do. He walks down, I'm going to drive out the Amorites before you, and the Canaanites and Hittites. And then I'm gonna skip, I'm not gonna read it all. Make no covenant with the inhabitants of the land. So I'm trying to read this and see that this is not, it sounds like it's talking to someone that I already have an intimate relationship with. So I don't know. I'm trying to see it, because I had never thought about
Ron, I'm glad you said that, Ron, because this is Kathy. I am right there with you, because I've always heard that taught, that jealousy meaning don't go after any other gods. I alone am your God. And that's how it was first presented. I remember being taught that way. And the word that came to mind when you all were speaking just now about jealousy, which is not even a better word that I'm getting ready to say, but what that said to me when I was first taught that scripture, and what I had held on to that scripture to mean, was possessive. I am possessive. I want to be I am your one God, and if you will be my God, I will be your people. In another scripture it says, and I will do all these things. I'll drive all of these things out and do all of these things, in one of the other scriptures. And so I don't like that word possessive any better than jealous. But it always, to me, came in the form of a relationship that you had with someone. And as a result of that relationship, I did not want you to be in another relationship and see someone else as your God, is how I remember that being taught to me a long time ago. And even that needs to be cleared up. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Kathy.
And that humanizes God.
So this is from Elle again. So could it be that it really refers to the Creator was displeased with our taking on gods of religion or religious gods, and that's what it's referring to, that we left our awareness of spirituality, of who we are? To chase
Um,
after false gods?
That's adultery.
Okay, all right.
My contention is this. Bottom line, when it comes to God being jealous in the way it's written, or being angry. Now I can see more anger than jealousy. However, my bottom line is that there is so much mistranslated, added to, and taken away from the scriptures until it's very difficult for us to know exactly what to believe about, to understand about it, rather, until we do some in-depth research, because there is no way in the world that I would ever believe that God has to be jealous of anything or anyone. It just doesn't make sense. If I have the ability to create anything I want to and to remove anything I want to, why would I be jealous? You have absolutely nothing for me to be jealous of. Does that make sense?
That does.
Now, that's why I said what I did about jealousy. It's a human emotion. And it's one of those human emotions that no one wants to admit, even though everyone else can see it. And jealousy, when jealousy plays out, it can play out in a vindictive way. It can play out in a hurtful manner. The way you treat people, the way you talk to people, being nasty with them, being abrasive with them, accusing them of things that doesn't make sense, all those kinds of things. Jealousy breeds so many different responses from the person who is jealous, until it's virtually impossible to name all the responses. Can you see that? Come on, guys. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
I mean, there are so many of them.
So you're basically saying then that jealousy breeds unrighteousness.
Yes, absolutely. That's in one word, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah, so how would jealousy apply to the creator? Yeah.
And that's why I have a problem with that translation.
Yeah.
Help me understand what we're talking about now. You know how I'm gonna put Christmas in there and Santa Claus. When you go buy all these toys or you buy these gifts for your children, and you telling them that Santa Claus is doing it, but you don't work your butt off to make that kind of money to provide for that child to have something. So I'm gonna be jealous of that Santa Claus taking the credit of what I don't done. You understand what I'm saying?
But see, Charles, in that regard, you can't be upset or be jealous about what Santa Claus has done, because you the one said it. If you go be jealous of Santa Claus, just tell them the truth. If I told my kids Santa Claus bought it all, then I can't be jealous of Santa Claus, because I'm the one who told that lie. You see what I'm saying?
I understand it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to inject something here to what Charles was saying. Wouldn't that be envy? Because we're putting Santa Claus up to be admired, even though we're discontent with the fact that our Santa Claus is getting all the admiration. Wouldn't that be envy?
No. Why would you be envious of someone you created when you can just feel them at any point?
And envy means admiration and discontent. So it seems to me like the person I created, I'm envious towards something that isn't, because I'm discontent because they're getting the credit, but yet I'm the one who created it.
And you created something out of thin air.
Yes.
And you go be envious, and you go admire to be envious of it at the same time. But you created.
Sounds like me.
I'm not trying to be funny at all.
I understand.
But if I create something out of thin air, and I'm envious of it, and I admire the thing that I created. I'm envious because it getting credit for what I did, but I admire it because it make my kids happy. So what I'm actually saying is, I need therapy because I am envious of something that I created out of thin air, and I admire it because it makes my children happy when I know it. But I know the reality is that what makes my children happy is something that I created that does not even exist. And I can change all of that by telling the truth.
That is true.
So, and I'm not talking about you specifically in terms of, well, hell, everybody needs therapy. All of us need therapy. If you're like me, you're already getting it. If not, you sure need it. So if you're in this country. But anyway, that's how I see that. I don't see how anyone could be jealous or envious or have admiration for something that they know that does not exist. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying, this scripture is I ain't saying it's not right. It's been.
Yes, sir, I am.
It's just been turned. It's just like the enemy is turning God's words around and putting in the way you think it's gonna fit, but it ain't fitting.
It took them 1,000 years to write the Bible. To copy and to translate, mistranslate, and to manipulate and do all the things they did. And if you don't take any thought to what's written here about God being jealous, then all of a sudden, what is in your subconscious? There are things that I do that God is jealous of, so I cannot do them because God is jealous of me, jealous of it. But you don't ever think, what in the world can I do that God can be jealous of? Can anyone think of one thing that God can be jealous of that you do or that you represent? One thing. Now, I don't know whether you're silent because you can't think of anything or you're silent because you don't want to say it, because every time I ask a question, you're silent. So.
But
I
see,
can't think of
anything.
Okay.
here is the thing that this is what it says in Joshua, and it makes it even sound like a punishment, right? Joshua 24:19 says, then Joshua said to the people, you will not be able to serve the Lord, for he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions or your sins. It sounds like if you make him jealous, you get punished for it. So I guess we just never talked about this before, but this is kind of really misleading.
It is.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense. And
What's
again,
the, sorry,
go ahead,
I'm just asking Ron, what's the context of that Joshua 24, whatever? What was happening?
He's talking to the people that he's leading. I can go up a few verses.
Yeah, what were they doing to make God jealous, in other words?
Yeah, I think this is when they're getting ready to cross over. I know they're traveling. I know he's going over. He's just told them all the things that God has done for them, the journey they had going over their history. And then it goes into, let me find it. Now, therefore, fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away gods and your fathers, which your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve them. So he's talking to them about coming to the promised land. If it is disagreeable in your sight to serve the Lord, choose for yourself today whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served which were beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites, into whom land you are living? But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The people answered and said, far be it from us that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods, for the Lord is our God. So he's talking to them about the journey they're on, and they're about to cross over. So, in other words, kind of make up your mind who you are.
So how does jealousy fit that? In that context, where does jealousy fit? And again, I reiterate, I believe wholeheartedly that jealousy is a human trait that we need to deal with. Because it will impede your spiritual growth, your spiritual understanding, your spirituality, period. You will be thinking that you are this spiritual being who is moving into a space of knowing who you are, and that this and really when you are not moving at all. You say you give lip service to who you are, but your actions speak otherwise. Because if you're jealous, then that's going to elicit from you negative emotions. And if you are focused on negative emotions, if your expressions are negative, and I use negative very loosely, please understand that. And I use the word negative the way that we have used it for years. If your emotions are negative, then how is it that you can truly be who you say you are? How is it possible for me to have all of these negative emotions or expressions towards you, and at the same time say that I know I am in rhythm with the universe? Is that possible?
Let's look at it a different way. If we look at it a different way, I'm sorry, Evelyn, were you ready to say what you
Go
had
ahead,
to
I
say?
yield.
Well,
Yeah, I was going to ask. Oh, go ahead, I yield.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, did you say that being jealous or whatever is a sense of lack?
It's a belief that you lack something. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I thought, okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, thanks.
I guess the only thing I'm trying to say, or I'm asking, I'm not trying to say anything, I'm asking the question. Could this be saying that internally, as we are right now, everybody on this phone, we do this, and we have grown from it. We know who we are, we know what we're becoming. Can this be saying that if at this point you transgress, that you become angry, that the God in you, the Elohim that is in you, becomes angry with you, and you feel it? You feel the
wrath?
Yes, you feel the lack of vibration. You feel something internally. You become angry with yourself. You become disappointed with yourself.
But is that jealous? Is that God being jealous?
Well, it's also anger though.
Now, the anger, like I said, I can see the anger. But
I don't know. I'm just trying to piece it together because it doesn't make sense to me.
That makes sense to me when it's anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it's jealousy, no, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. And I'm
Good
not
evening,
saying that
everyone.
Go ahead, George.
No, forgive me, Reb. I didn't mean to interrupt and interject. Forgive me on that.
No, go ahead.
Boss.
You good. You good.
Oh, thank you. One of the things in this whole topic that we've discussed, Rev, there's no way God could ever be jealous of anything. You can create everything and get rid of it all at the same time. There's no way you can have that trait. So I agree with that.
Right.
Presently speaking, not looking at it through Elohim eyes, Yahweh eyes, God eyes, looking at it through George eyes, who is a God. If you keep your eyes on your own paper, the likelihood of you flirting with jealousy or envy is slim to none. People who compete with me, all of them envious of me. And I don't mind letting them know. Yeah, you're envious of me, but yet you need me. So when you compete with an individual, the chances of you being jealous and or envious of that individual, very high. If you complete with the individual, Philly stated with the white boy that was an anthropologist, everybody crossed the line together. If everybody crossed the line together, the likelihood of insecurity not going to be there. So my suggestion to you is keep your eyes on your own paper. Compete with people. There's some people out here, they compete with people over feminine energy. Want to know who sound the best. Whoa, 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 whoa. And it'll show his head too now. So keep your eyes on your own paper and learn how to complete with each other. That I think that will be a good remedy to eat at being jealous and or envious. Thank you.
You're right. When you're jealous, you don't even want to be around the person, but you want to be the person. You want what they have. And I do not see how you can truly believe that you are who you say you are and be jealous and continue to be jealous, even if someone points it out to you. I'm going to say something else about jealousy. Jealousy is also juvenile. You revert to 13-year-old, 12, 13-year-old child, jealous because somebody got a new glove and you didn't. That's what it amounts to. That's very juvenile, to be jealous. But at the same time, it's also dangerous because jealousy can end in someone's death. Jealousy also can end in you living in this world by yourself, all alone, because you have pushed everyone away from you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Sheldon.
Can y'all hear me fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually was just, patiently waiting for a time to interject something, and it is along the way George said a little bit more that we were talking about jealousy and that being God being jealous. Possible for God to be jealous because God is the one who granted free will, number one. Number two, no matter where the attention is given, the attention, in a sense, is always given back to God because all of creation is God. And for the ultimate love to actually be experienced, it has to be that the love was there and available without it being forced or manipulated or anything like that. That is when the ultimate love is actually experienced. Just wanted to definitely agree with everything with everyone has said in terms of that verse or God being a jealous God has to be a misinterpretation because that, like it was said, that is a human trait, and that just simply isn't a trait that's even discussed when we talk about the Creator at all, or when we talk about the aspects of the Creator. We talk about the aspects of the universe. This idea of jealousy doesn't exist. and I'm not sure because I missed out a little bit, but this idea of jealousy also automatically perceives some sense of lack or not being powerful or not being able to overcome, which would then suggest that the creator of the universe sees itself as being defeated in some type of way, which is also an impossibility. You finish.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Right now, go ahead.
No, you go ahead because I'll bring it to an end.
I'm looking at it when it goes back to the garden, and they, you know, God told them not to, you know, you can eat from every tree, but you can't eat from good and evil, and God created good and evil. And so if he created good and evil, that means it's in man too. So I'm seeing all this revolves around in mankind, because we learning about ourselves now, about the God in us. So it's got to be the God in us making us feel in a different way. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. However, it's not the God in us. It's the God that we are, yet we don't recognize it. We have a struggle because before you can create, you got to create yourself. The attributes of Elohim, the attributes of our creator that we are, you have to create self first. When we talk about you have to free yourself, when we talk about you have to bring balance to yourself before you can be balanced for anyone else, that's the same principle. These attributes has to become who you are in, with you embracing them with everything in you. You cannot play with that. Today I love you, tomorrow I'm jealous of you. It doesn't work like that. Jealousy doesn't work like that. So as I was about to say, Mr. Charles, if that's clear with you, that—
Yes, sir, it's very clear.
Okay, thank you, sir. That the conclusion is this, as far as I see it, and this is how I see it, that jealousy is indeed a human trait. And as Sheldon said, there's a misinterpretation that allows that word to be used in those passages. And with the conclusion that it's a human trait, then I think every one of us needs to check ourselves. And don't be upset if someone points it out to you. Rather than be angry, ask them, in what way do they see jealousy in you? And do a self-inventory. And if anyone you close enough to anyone, let them help you do a self-inventory. But be prepared for the responses and don't get angry. Does that make sense, guys? Is that not what we conclude?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Ron,
Hello.
did I hear someone else?
Yeah, it was Sheldon. It was one more thing that I
Okay.
intended to say right quick, and hopefully this is helpful. The reason why the scripture has been problematic, and I'm not saying this for everyone to get mad, I'm saying it for people to then understand how it may have influenced you and who you perceive yourself to be in life, is that in church, for us to believe and been taught that God is a jealous God, and then we're supposed to do certain things because God is going to be upset with us if we don't do it, is in a way actually teaching us that that is what love is. Love comes through manipulation. Love comes through force. Love comes through making someone do something. So then in our lives, as we interacted with others and as others interacted with us as well, we bought into the idea that that was actually okay, and that is what love was, when that was not love at all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone want to respond to that?
I have
Raise
a
your
question. Well, I don't want to comment on what he said, but I have another question. If someone else wants to address what he just said, I had a question about that.
Go ahead.
So when we know that we're jealous or not know, well, I'll just say when you know that you're jealous or feel jealous, because that's not who you are, we need to do a self-examination on ourselves. And why am I jealous of this person? Or let me just ask a question, put it out there. How do we deal with that? I know we go inward and ask ourselves, what is it about this person or this thing? Because it's things too that, people are jealous of. And I'm saying we because we all have been guilty of it. I didn't say yes when you asked that question previously, about if anybody been jealous or whatever, but I know I have been. And so my question again, so how do we deal with that if we know we are jealous of a person or a thing or the things they have?
You actually already were doing an excellent job of explaining, and you're on the right road in terms of what you should do. You should just say, or anyone, I'm going to say one, a person just should say, oh, I'm jealous of this person, acknowledging that, and then stopping there. Like you just mentioned, you then begin to ask yourself and question yourself, why are you jealous? What is it that you see that they have or what you want, and why is your life empty or doesn't have that thing? So not only do you find out what you're jealous of, then you start asking yourself more questions. Why do I see myself lacking, or what is it that's within me that I'm overlooking because I am looking at that particular person, et cetera? Because when we're jealous of someone or something, the only thing that we're doing is we're saying that we in some way are insufficient, or like I said, we are lacking of something. And therefore we're saying that we are not whole. We are not fully recognizing, or at least seeing, or at least being aware at that particular moment of who we are. So it's not to beat ourselves up. It's not to get upset. It's just automatically a learning moment. And that learning moment is it's an opportunity to actually grow and to address things that we may have thought subconsciously that are not actually even true.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it always begins within. And
you.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay.
There's another way to look at, good evening, this is Barbara. There's another way to look at this. If you look at the concordance, it doesn't say just jealous, it says zealous also. And so, they could have mistranslated, taken the negative of the jealous, but zealous in that 7065, it says also, in the concordance number, Strong's is 7065, it says zealous also. And zealous is warmly enraged or ardent in the pursuit of an object. Now that doesn't mean, that's not calling a human an object, but it's I've loved you fervently. I've given you everything I know to give you. I've prepared your way. I've done these things because this is my way of showing you how much you mean to me. So I can see zealousness more than I can see jealousy. I don't see jealousy because there's nothing to be jealous of, but the zealousness is more of the description of the relationship between the human and the divine. I love you this much. And the jealousy comes in when we put the descriptor on it. For instance, you remember we talked about, you know, that good angel and that other angel, the voices inside of us. Well, when we misappropriate what that meaning is, and we start envying people and perceiving that we have lack and perceiving that someone has more than we do, that's that tree of knowledge of good and unrightness part, and we are dabbling in the unright part of it. But the opposite of that is to understand just how precious we are to our Creator. So I don't know if that adds anything to it, but I saw it, and I found myself more aligned with that zealousness on behalf of the Creator than the jealousy. And the position I had put in, I got, and I was so hurt, but maybe it was jealous because
You're breaking
I
up.
had to talk
Evelyn.
to myself until I said, oh,
You-
Lord.
You're breaking up.
What about now? What about,
You were breaking up.
can you hear me now?
There you go.
I'm gonna stay right here. Now,
Okay.
what I was saying to help me understand, remember that position I had put in and that guy got it and I felt that they rejected me and
Mm-hmm.
I was hurt. And was I jealous or hurt because he got it? Because I had an attitude with him and it wasn't his fault he got it. You know, they didn't want me. You know what? I need to be honest with myself and you as well. So, what was it? Jealous or envy, or was it or resentment?
We can hear part of what you're saying, but that's your decision. You have to determine what it is in you. So if he had determined that it was you being angry, and you were not angry, you were hurt, then what you're dealing with is hurt. So you can't expect someone else to tell you what you feel. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, this is Angela. I got a question. In the script, in the scripture that we're discussing now, and that doesn't describe who the creator is. Are we? I just say we forcing the creator to fit in something that was never intended, where the writer never intended it to be first source of the creator.
In too many places in the scriptures, the people who manipulated the scriptures attributed human attributes to the creator in several different places. So that is why it's necessary to search the scriptures. To search the writings on your own. When I say on your own, I'm talking about if you're teaching somebody, you got to make sure you're right. Now, the reason that white evangelical Christians who Black folk follow religiously, the reason they believe that the only right translation is King James is because it's written in English, and everything that's written in that Bible, the way it was translated, they believe that God wrote it because they white folks wrote it. That's why they believe it. and they have taught us to believe it also. And when we began to do research and we began to see linguistic differences in the translations and interpretations, now all of a sudden we are blasphemous. And we are making things up as we go. And that accusation was made towards me, and it was not from a evangelical preacher, it was from a Black preacher. But he was following the guidelines of evangelicals, while at the same time saying that he would never do that. So what I'm saying as the bottom line is this: how can you understand without a teacher? Nowhere in the scriptures will you find what you're supposed to teach yourself. Nowhere. Every place you will find is that you are supposed to be taught. Just like Angela, just like Kathy, just like anyone else needs to be taught, so does James Richard. If we are beyond teaching, being taught, we can't teach. So why do I put it that way? Because the Bible is so conflicting in the way it has been translated and manipulated until it is virtually impossible for someone to read it and truly understand it without researching it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense to you, Angela?
Yes.
So anyway, those attributes, those human attributes that have been attributed to God, plays on the minds of people in a very, very harmful way, spiritually harmful way. That's all I got to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyone else?
I just wanted to add too that there's a couple of places in Deuteronomy where it says the same thing. And in Deuteronomy, it's supposedly Moses who's saying all this, because it's just after he's given them, he's talked to them about the 10 commandments or the 10 utterances or whatever. But it sounds to me like these are, I mean, I know it's characterized as Moses's words, and he's not exactly feeling these people right about now, because they've sort of rejected the revelation that he had. So I think he's using his words to convey his sense of dismay, disappointment, frustration, anger, whatever that he has towards these people who have sort of rejected the revelation that, or aren't really feeling the revelation that he had from the Creator. So, and I agree with BJ that maybe it should have been zealous as opposed to jealous. But anyway, but yeah, it's I think there's a lot of issue with the translation and what exactly the words meant.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, that Audrey mentions that, yes, something quickly. Yes, if you look at the way that the 10 commandments were used, or at least presented, at least the way that we were told that it was being presented by Moses, it was that of commanding and of commandments. But we also know, as we learned here and talked about here, in terms of even the Ten Commandments coming in from the laws of Ma'at, and understanding that the laws of Ma'at were not actually commandments in terms of a law for a God, but outward God, more so as a guidance. And this goes back to what Charles mentioned about the idea of good and evil. The idea of good and evil is just free will, the ability of us as gods and being creators to actually make a choice and choose. That guidance is for us to choose, but for us to choose on our own accord, not being made to do so, which therefore then comes, the sense of balance. I apologize for any background noise. But just that, I just wanted to talk about the origin of his words, the way they were presented us, like I said, in being commandments, thou shalt not, like this was just the laws of the universe, you better not dare to do this particular thing, versus Ma'at showing us guidance, and that guidance was for inner awareness, or in a sense, inner growth. These are things that we are balancing and dealing with within ourselves.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I didn't know if you, yeah, I don't want to, I think there's, at least in my house, I don't know about you guys' house, there's an elephant in my room. I want to talk about it for just a second, if you guys don't mind. The announcement with Biden yesterday. Anybody have any insight on that, or anything they see there, or have heard, or? No one?
What you asking, Ron?
Biden dropping out of the race yesterday and endorsing Harris for presidential or Democratic nominee for. I just want to know if anybody thought more about that. Anybody have any insight or anything they want to talk about with that? Since we got a whole week before we meet again, I just thought we'd at least mention it.
This is Barbara. To me, Ron, it was a little anticlimactic, as if, we've been saying this stuff all along.
Yeah.
And that's the way it came across to me. That, okay, we talked about spiritual things are already real. Shelton talked about, when you think about something and you think about making something, it's you already create the image in your mind. Pastors talked about in the past, when you're talking, an architect who wants to build something has that image in their mind, what they're going to want to build, and that image is a spiritual symbol of a physical kind of thing they want to. It is the spiritual essence of the physical symbol that they want to manifest. And so the spiritual is more real, I think Sheldon said also, than the physical. So it's almost like we're already saying, it's the sense that we've already said that, and that this was just a manifestation of everything that we talked about. The woman, the African woman on the throne, in a sense, kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It really is, isn't it?
And it's happening fast.
Yeah.
Things are manifesting quickly. So yeah.
Do you think the way it occurred, the way it was announced, it almost they didn't say it this way, but I wonder how much thought went into waiting until after the Republican convention. Did they want to wait did it have something to do with waiting to see who that, or making the confirming who the running mate for Trump would be, and making sure that was locked in before they made this announcement? Did that have anything to do with it, you think? Or
I didn't get that sense, Ron,
okay,
because Trump is Trump. Trump is Trump before he made a pick, and Trump is Trump after he made a pick of a VP. I think, I believe that all of this was part of their way, because this is nothing new. It's been happening, these
Yeah.
snafus all along. But this was finally the way that it was sort of like a straw. The debate was the straw in a sense that said, okay, we gotta do something different.
yeah,
And I think the weight had to do with the leaders putting pressure on and trying to be respectful to an extent too, because he's done a lot in a sense. He's done a lot physically in a sense for the country. And so I don't think the pressure was brought to bear because of the Republican convention or because of the running mate, Trump's running mate. But that's just my personal opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. The decision was made a few months ago. The team that they're talking about that must hit the ground running was already in place before the announcement. When they said that Biden had COVID, that was opportunity to take him out of the public and give him time to come to grips with what they had already decided. And Biden been in politics for 50 years. Biden knew that once a public statement was made by a Pelosi, Obama, or Schumer, or Hakeem Jeffries, it was over. He knew that. However, he also knew that everything had to be put in place for Kamala before he did what he was going to do. What do I mean by that? Our team had to be transitioned to her style of campaigning. The ones who were going to endorse her had to be organized in a way that all the endorsements did not come at the same time, that they will come from lower level Democratic politicians. And from that, they will go up to the levels where you got Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren, that crowd. And now it's the apex of the Democratic Party who will make all this was orchestrated from behind the scene, every bit of it. And I do believe that this had nothing to do with Donald Trump in terms of the announcement or the withdrawal. I believe that the withdrawal was timed to take all the steam out of the Republican convention. Ever since the Republican convention, what we have been hearing is about how Biden was not capable of continuing, but implying that Trump is on top of his game. Now, think about what happened yesterday. All the energy in the country changed. When that announcement was made, the energy shifted. And it shifts so quickly, and it shifts towards her so firmly until the Republicans did not know what to do. And one of the things that speak to them being caught off guard and not knowing what to do is this. when the Speaker of the House said states are going to court to challenge this because Biden should resign. If he is not competent enough to run for president again, he is not competent enough to be president. And we are going to court. That is stupid fear and this fear mongering, because there are only two ways to remove a president from office. That's impeachment or the 25th Amendment. No Supreme Court can remove him from the office. The only thing that can render him incompetent is the 25th Amendment, and his cabinet has to do that. So yes, it was time perfectly when they were at the apex of their talking or about how successful their convention was. Bam, this is. And now nobody's talking about it. Everyone is talking about how scared Trump is of Kamala Harris. Why? Because the first thing that he did, or his team did rather, was to remove him from the debate. They canceled the debate between the two running for office, and the reason they gave was that Biden was the one that they supposed to debate. No, you're supposed to debate the top of the ticket because they know Trump can't handle it. However, Trump's ego is not going to do that. So yesterday, what we saw is a sea change. What we saw is Palestinians being brought back to the voting booth. What we saw is the Black folk who were talking about they were going to support Trump brought back to the voting booth. All of these things. Last night, there was a call, a Zoom call across the country, and women received an email to join the call. On that call was 19,000 women. And the only thing they talked about was how they were going to make sure that Kamala Harris was going to be elected. 19,000 women was called together last night. $50 million raised in less than 12 hours. All of these things don't just happen in a vacuum, and they don't happen that quick. There are people who knew what was coming, and they put things in place. And it's easier to put things in place now because of social media. And there are people in Georgia who have been organizing for Kamala for the last month or so, but they kept it on the QT. So I just see a major sea change. I have no doubts in my heart, my mind, my soul, my nothing. There's no doubt in me anywhere about her being president. None whatsoever. Nikki Haley's PAC endorsed Kamala Harris. Did you know that? So
No.
Nikki
Yes.
Haley's PAC endorsed her. Joe Manchin tried to come back in. I'm sure you heard that. But after Donna Brazile got through with him last night, he backed out of it. So there are so many things that were taking place in the background that led up to this. And Joe Biden knew that he was going to have to step down, but he also had to persist in saying that I'm going to stay. And he did that until after the Republican convention, because he knew when they come out of that convention that they were going to be on a high, and the news media was going to pick up everything they were saying. The news media was going to promote them in a way that they should not have, because they did not talk about the racism that came out of that convention. They did not talk about the ignorance that came out of that convention. But when Joe Biden stepped down, look at what happened. All of a sudden now, there is no comparison between the two. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, Rev, it definitely makes sense.
I was last night I was on a conference call with some people from DC. And there were things that we had talked about in the past, and some things that were taking place in the background. So I'm not at all leery of anything. I'm not. You can raise $90 million in less than 24 hours. And you already have 100 million in the bank. So the donors are there. The donors are there, and there are. Nikki Haley is not the only PAC Republican group that has endorsed her. There are other Republican women, and you know the only suburban women are white women, according to the news media. And they are forming groups to support her already. I'm done. Ron?
I'm here. Just say if anybody has a comment, question. All right. Good discussion, y'all.
Do what we're supposed to do. Vote.
Yeah.
I've never seen this much excitement since Obama. But this is a different type of excitement.
Well, let me ask this question. We always talk about, we know we're not shaping anything, but what else do you want to see? Is there anything else that comes to mind? What do you feel?
I feel like we got to wait until we hear how policy is being shaped. And then we could talk more intelligently about it. Because right now, there are some things that's under discussion, especially in reference to Israel, that has not been made public yet. The reason the Republicans want Biden to resign is because that opens up Kamala to make decisions about Israel and Gaza. And they want to force her hand on that because they know that she and Biden did not agree on the strategy that was being pursued in Gaza. And they want to exploit that. Biden is not going to resign. He's going to protect her. He's going to shield her from that. So she does not have to make those decisions. She met with Netanyahu today. I would love to have been a fly on the wall.
Yeah. I'm excited. I don't know what for yet, but just the election and see what happens. This is what we've been talking about. So
I'm excited about the change.
yeah,
I see far beyond the election. I do.
yeah.
I'm excited. I
Yeah.
mean, let me say this, and then we can go if you choose. Let me say this. There will not be anything like what happened on January 6th when she wins. The reason I say that is because Lloyd Austin is an African, and he's the Secretary of Defense. And I don't remember the Air Force guy, General, who is the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He is African also. This is not going to come down the way it did on January 6th because the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense can federalize National Guard when they get ready and send them out. This is not going to happen the way it did the last time. Do I think some idiots are going to try to do some violent things? Yes, I do. But it will not be on the scale that people are afraid of. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that never happened. You got 2 African men who was in charge of the military in this country.
And the next potential commander-in-chief would be a woman. Just
Yes.
like the Cabelon when where the
Yeah.
systems of justice were set up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And Biden was dethroned. European mindset was dethroned by an African woman. That's it.
Good stuff, y'all. All right. Don't want to rush anybody. Anybody else thought, question? All righty. Well, enjoy your week and look forward to Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, thank you for your
Thank
presence.
you. Bye.
Good
y'all.
talking.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good week.
You too.